The following program contains language and situations of an adult nature. Some material may not be appropriate for young viewers.
Hello, welcome to How to Play Caribbean Contraband, a game for 2 players. Now this is our first year on YouTube, our first anniversary, and we're going to go back to the game that started us out. And I want to thank everybody in that time that subscribed. We have 153 subscribers at the time of this recording. And so if you haven't yet, do like and subscribe. It's definitely worth it. You get to see videos as soon as they come out. And if you know anybody that plays these types of card games, go ahead and share this video with them. So I'm going to tell you a good idea, and this is just for the sake of not making anybody angry. A good idea is to follow everything the government tells you to do. That way you don't get in trouble. And sometimes these guys actually know what's best. And so you should always obey them. That's weird. It's Friends of Tibet, so why in the world would they say obey government? They must not have been thinking that day. But yeah, trust the government. Now, the bad idea, of course, would be to do the exact opposite of what the government tells you. Sometimes they have some decent ideas, and drugs are one of them. You really shouldn't do them unless you want to be noticed in public, like this guy. But some of these things can be deadly, so you should definitely be careful. You definitely shouldn't be taking a lot of these things. They really can mess you up. And yeah, there have been drug runners in the past that have worked for the government, but if you do that, you'll get locked up. And so let me present a third position idea on this, and that would be the position of these guys here. And they say that government should not necessarily arrest people for doing drugs, mostly because the government themselves has been behind a lot of the drug trafficking. And probably the best policy to ever come out of Washington was simply to just say no to drugs. I mean, I wish they would have kept it at that, but instead we got Larry the Crime Donkey. Wait, that was Jack in the Box. But yeah, arresting people for victimless crimes is definitely a bad thing. And we spend a lot of tax dollars, and obviously we can't keep every bad thing from happening, otherwise this situation here would have happened. And it's kind of odd to think we have all that drug enforcement when we have all these needles on the streets, like we're burning our own tax dollars or something. And this is not just in the United States. Every other country on earth has problems with smugglers, no matter what it is. A lot of other countries arrest their people for doing drugs. I'm just going to tell you, normal people don't do drugs. So let's go back to our regularly scheduled program. This game, of course, is about drug smuggling, so we're going to take a Bahama Taxi board, 3 dice, a deck of cards, and we're going to need 4 pawns. And we're going to take the 3s out because the 3s will be the starting points of both the smuggler and the cop. So you're going to have 2 pawns for each player. One will be a cop that you control, and the other will be your drug smuggler that makes drugs for people. So we'll have our position, our cop and our smuggler, on the opposite sides of each other. One side will control the black territory, the other side will control the red territory. All that really means is that your smuggler will go back to that 3 whenever they're needed. So your same rules apply as apply in all Bahama Taxi games. You have 3 spots in your cab. You have the same exact deadlines as before, but instead of passengers, you're picking up packages and delivering them to where they need to go. And the officer is there as a defensive standpoint to stop you. So the cops can't collect packages. They can potentially get captured by a smuggler when the smuggler has no packages on them. And they can capture the smuggler when they roll a triple or when they manage to occupy the same space. Passengers from God rule, that is up to your discretion if you want to play with that on or off. That's basically when you have a passenger generated by the card deck, you instantly give them to that player or not. So when you roll a double, you can't move your cop. When you roll 3 of your cop immediately goes to the smuggler. If the smuggler's empty-handed, that will be problems. If the smuggler has packages, you get the packages, as long as you have room in your cab for all of them. If not, they get destroyed. They're no longer in the game. So we're just going to show some quick movements. When we roll the dice before each turn, if we have 3 of a kind, we will immediately take the smuggler. The smuggler will go back to his home, and the cop will stay there. So that's basically all the confiscation rules. As long as that player has contraband on them and the cop stops them, you're in good shape. If you have room in your cab, you can take that contraband. If you don't have room for all of it, it has to be destroyed, has to be taken out of the game. If you go when they don't have it, yeah, that's bad. That means you're losing contraband, so you don't want to do that necessarily either. So we're just going to go ahead and set this game up. We're going to set it up with the new rule that we learned that we guessed forgot about when we first covered Bahama Taxi, and that is there's an obvious player aid. You position the cards, in this case the packages, where they're standing, in what suit field they're standing. So hearts go in the heart field, and clubs go in the club field, diamonds go in the diamond field, and so forth and so on. And you should always have 8 passengers on the board. Here we have all 8, so we're good. Each turn you're going to roll the dice and decide where you want to move your smuggler and where you want to move your cop. If you roll doubles on the dice, your cop does not move at all. If you roll triples, they go to the opponent's smuggler and you take their contraband if they have any. So it's an interesting system of doing things. It's not often you'll get doubles, so most of the time you will be moving your cop. You'll need pen and paper to keep score. The scoring is exactly the same as Bahama Taxi. So it's pretty much virtually the same game, except you have a secondary piece that's used solely for defense. So you can position them however you want. You can use them to block. Obviously, you can't jump in this game, just like Bahama Taxi. So you can't jump. You have to go around if there's a block. Smugglers can block each other. Cops can block each other. Cops can't get anything off the other cop. Basically, the cops don't know they're working, that the other's working for another smuggler. Or maybe they do. Maybe it's one of those corrupt countries. Who knows? But anyways, that's basically the gist of the game. Really simple. We're not going to go through the whole thing here. But I can tell you we tested it out. It's not as good as Bahama Taxi. Probably has some fundamental flaws with it. But it's a way to try something to do another type of game with this board. With some added scrutiny, with some added thinking, maybe some added luck. I don't know, it was just something to try, something to experiment with. So maybe it'll work for you, maybe it won't. You'll have to let me know in the comments. But we kind of enjoyed it. It was interesting. We'll have to play it again and see how it goes. But yeah, pretty simple rules. Basically, you use your cop and, to try to influence where your opponent's smuggler goes. And your opponent uses his cop to try to influence where you go. You don't often get captured. You don't often capture the cop either, mostly because you're trying to stay away from them, because mostly you're going to be going towards the packages, trying to get the points off the packages. If you try to get the cop when you're empty-handed, you might have a fool's errand. And the only thing that really causes that to happen is the fact that when you do roll doubles, you're not allowed to move your officer. So we're just going to go ahead and skip ahead because I'm not going to show you the whole entire game. It did take a long time, and we just don't have that type of time here. Nobody does. And so maybe if you want to house rule this and experiment with it, you can let me know in the comments what you had success with and what you didn't like. But basically, we kept going on, and we kept getting packages, scoring points, writing our point totals down, and just continuing with the game until we get to that final deadline. When we have less than 4 passengers left, you're only allowed to have 1 package in your cab. You're only allowed to smuggle 1 at a time. And then, of course, when you have the last passenger or package picked up, that's when the game will end. So, basically the same game, except we added some dice. You have 2 different pawns to consider movement on. And if you roll triples, you go immediately capture the other player's cab, and that pushes them back to their starting point, and you stay wherever they were. And if you have room in your cab, you get their contraband. If you don't have room for all the contraband, it gets thrown away. If you capture an empty cab, an empty smuggler, you're in trouble yourself. If you have any contraband, you have to give it to the other player. Otherwise, you're basically just swapping contraband out. It's an interesting rule set. Read through it, see what it's like, see if you like it. It was an interesting experiment for us to do, and hopefully it works. Okay, there we got an instant package, and yep, I had to give up that contraband. And so here we go, trying to get to that last package picked up, and once we are there, the game will be over. And that's it. That's the end of the game. We delivered the last package, and that's the game. I managed to win it. So if you actually want to have a group of friends to play cards with, like these people here, you need to come to our subreddit, Card Game Meetups. It is a fun place. You can post your city. You can post what games you know, what games you want to know, what games you're willing to teach, what games you're willing to learn. It's a fun place. You'll find that if you go in the description and click under where it says Show More, you're going to find all kinds of stuff. Other card game, board game, dice game, just game channels that I enjoy. The music for today's video. links to other things like a sandwich shop over in Bedford where you can get good sandwiches, but mostly a link to the card game meetups or subreddit where you can post your city, and most importantly, a link to a Discord channel where we talk about card games all day, every day, and it's a very fun place. We're looking forward to you getting there, and it's a very, very good time. So I want to thank today's musician, HDV Music, for their cover of Bad Boys, the theme song to the TV show Cops. Figured it's an appropriate use for it here. Do like and subscribe, and I'll see you next video.